Welcome to our lecture on psychological perspective on consumerism for AMM 2450. There's a lot of material, so I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible, but this will be part one. And I will be asking you to read a couple of things and think about it, pause the video, think about a couple of things. The focus is why people buy things. We ask ourselves, why would you wear that? Why do you buy that? So we have to kind of dissect it and break it down. So we have to look at cognitive processes because they explain consumer choices, and we look at stimuli, external stimuli, so things that are internal, and then external stimuli that convince people or persuade people, maybe that's a better word, persuade people to purchase certain items. What are they? And do they vary? And how can we determine those? So the idea is, how do they respond to influences from their surroundings and from marketing? Because we'll talk about it in advertisement. How do they respond to that? Why? So that's what we're going to look at and break down. So there's a lot of studies on this. George Herbert Mead is someone who really focused on this quite a bit, actually. Stated, our view of ourselves, of who we are, is developed from experience as we learn to interpret situations by taking the role of the other, right? Kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Individual selves are not the products of biology, but rather social interaction. So if you've heard of kind of that nature-nurture debate, it's really focusing on how much you're influenced by your surroundings, okay, and how that shapes who you are. A lot of it is that it's not necessarily biological, it's your social aspects, your surroundings. And some people, it's debated. Some people think it's there's nature, so there's some biological aspects, like some people are more frugal, other people just like to spend, and others think it's a combination of both, or you can think it's all social. So it really does depend. I'm not here to tell you what you should think. It's just to kind of look at the big picture and see how you can get the tools so you can determine what makes people tick. So in the development of self, you can see you're influenced by a lot by the people around you. So your parents, siblings, grandparents, friends, coworkers, classmates, neighbors, you name it, whoever you're surrounded by. And you can see it in your daily lives, right? You'll start talking like someone. You are influenced a lot by who you're with. Are you what you buy? So in shopping, we do look at shopping behavior, and we study it because it does give you a little glimpse as to who the person is. And you do look at it through the relationships and, again, how the meaning of things, because obviously if you attribute more value to something, you're willing to spend more time on it and more money on it. And if you don't value it, you're not willing to buy it or willing to spend a lot of money on it. So consumer driven production of self is less to do with who am I and more with who are we or who do I belong to. So the idea is fitting into that social structure. It does tend to, in this kind of mindset, is to look at your purchases so you can fit in with the group, right? Fit in with the people you're with. So buying the cool clothes because that's what people are wearing, or having the latest gadget, right? So everyone, having the latest iPhone or having the right, laptop brand, for example. So it's looking at more how you buying things because you want to fit in with the team with the group rather than. So one of the areas called social psychology, we really look at, and what that is a study of thought and behavior, and it's how it's influenced by social situations. So again, this is focusing on nurture, right? Not nature. It's not looking at the inherently biological aspects of what makes you you. It's looking at social situations. So again, how that shapes who you are. So what they really look at, and please read up on this, but motivation, belief, and attitude. These aspects of what motivates you to buy something. And the idea is that a motive is a need that has to be sufficiently enough to get you to want to seek to satisfy it. So in other words, if it's barely there, it's not nudging you to take action, it's not really motivation. Motivation really gets you to move, to take action, to seek that satisfaction. A belief, descriptive thought about a brand or a service. So, and it could be negative or positive, and it could be based on fact, it could be based on opinion, real knowledge, perceived knowledge, it could be on just faith, it could just be based on an opinion that was given to you, recommendation from someone. So that's a belief. And an attitude is kind of your overall evaluation, feeling, and tendencies toward a particular area, a particular subject. These are difficult to change. Not to say that they can't be, but they're difficult to change, especially once it goes negative. It's hard to change it into a positive, but it's possible, but it's hard and rare. And the idea is the attitude of that predisposition to act. And you learn these things through classical, operant, and social learning. But the idea is that it shapes, your overall feelings, and especially now in this current situation where people are looking into the companies and the brands to stand with them in the social aspects and for social causes, and they're really looking at that they're in tune and in line with their own attitudes and beliefs. And if they're not, they'll boycott, I won't shop there, or I'm going to actually boycott and have people not shop there. That has changed, because before, I don't think many people really did know what the CEO of whatever company thought of. Now, if you looked at your social profiles lately, it's all about, we stand with this, we do this, we believe that. They're trying to connect with you in that way, and for a lot of customers, that's important. So this is just an infographic to give you a visual of, again, beliefs, values, and attitudes. And these strongly shape your choices, because it's what you hold to be important. Okay, so your beliefs, things like culture, faith, education, experience, influence from mentors. That's another highly influential person in your life is a mentor. These help shape your beliefs, which then help shape your values, right? So what's important to you? Is it a important, high-paying job, your career, successful career? Is it happiness, overall happiness, and what does that entail? Is it wealth? Is it family? Is it an active social life? What are we talking about? What are your values? What is important to you? Because that's going to play a really strong role as to what you tend to spend your money on. That helps shape your attitudes. Again, how you treat others, how you approach situations. So things like peer pressure, commanding respect. Convenience is another thing. If convenience is important, maybe you're willing to forsake quality, right, for fast food, right? Because I just need something that's convenient. So, and if you take this in this order, that leads to behavior, how you act. So again, it starts with beliefs, shapes your values, then your attitudes, and then ultimately behavior. And that's important in shopping, right? In consumerism, because we look at what you buy, your behavior. And if you take a long time to buy it, if you're an impulse shopper, that's what we're looking at, your behavior. So all this plays a role into how you behave in terms of shopping. So again, this is a visual, so please take a look at it. It gives you some examples. Again, beliefs, values, and attitudes. So the idea is, and I'll give you just an example here. So make sure that you read up on this, but again, they're obviously interrelated and one builds on the other. So beliefs, values, attitude, and then ultimately action, okay? Behavior. So in terms of theories of learning, and this is just a quick summary, and you can read up on this: behaviorism, social learning, cognitive learning. But the idea, if you take all of these, please read up on them. But basically, it's looking at your mental processes, how you analyze, and how you respond to stimuli. And again, how much of your social environment affects you and shapes you. And the idea is that, people will imitate, or maybe imitate is not a good word, but they adopt, they'll respond by, emulating or copying or whatever, and looking at observable behavior. So, and if it's a great way to look at this is if you see someone who's new to a situation, don't they always look around to see where people are doing and they try to mimic? Kids do that all the time when they're new and they see kids are all sitting there doing this, coloring. The kid will sit down and pick up a crayon and start coloring because that's what the kids are doing, right? So they observe the behavior and then they mimic that. So the idea is, that shapes, what they do. The behaviorism one, that one focuses on behavior as a result of actual stimuli. So a response to that. And last thing on this first part is the model of consumer behavior. So we're going to look at the patterns of consumerism, and this one's the first part of that, which is the model of consumer behavior. So marketing and other stimuli, and it kind of goes into that buyer's black box, and then it elicits a response, right? But this is too simplistic. There's a lot going on here. So things like the actual product, the price point, is it available? The promotion, is there a good deal? Is there, 25% off or 50% off? Buy one, get one free, BOGO. or it's expensive, but I have enough money and I can buy it. Things like the actual aspects of the product. It's ergonomic, it's advanced, it's the latest model, it's in tune with my political opinions right now, it's really tying into what's happening in the culture right now. These are all part of that stimuli and the marketing, and if you put it all together, then you goes into what we call the buyer's black box. So the decision process and things that, again, these characteristics that will shape your behavior as a consumer. And then the response. So your response has, there's a lot there too. Your choice, what brand, the quantity, what you were willing to pay for, the timing, the amount, the quantity of the items, and the quantity in terms of what you're willing to spend. All that is part of that consumer behavior model. And in part 2, we're going to talk about factors that influence consumer behavior, and then we're going to talk about what responses for, tie into an actual purchase. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. So thank you so much for listening.